Welcome back. And now I'm going to share with you an example of the fishery sustainability in Taiwan, which is located in Hualien, and the place is called Fish Bar. And again, it's also a group of young people. Most of them originally studied in other cities, but because of their family business, they decided to come back. And the founder is the lady in the picture, whose name is Miss Huang. And Miss Huang come back to Hualien 3 years ago and started this company called Fish Bar because their family business is facing a big issue. And here you can see it's a sample, it's a model of a fishing web, and it's located in the Pacific Ocean, which is not far away, just 100 200 meters. And this technique of fishing was actually renamed from the Japanese colonial era, and which is about 100 years ago. And as you can see, because this is just a model, so it's a lot smaller. The actual fishing net is about 1 kilometer long and about 500 meters wide. And you can see it's through the wave and attract the fish swimming into the fishing net. And it has several sections, and from the beginning to the end, the whole of the wave is become smaller and smaller. So fish actually, if it's a small fish, it has a chance to live. So it's not like other way of fishing that capture the whole fish. Doesn't matter it's big fish or small fish. This is a more sustainable way of fishing. And every day their fishing boat went to the fishing net to capture the fish and brought the most fresh seafood back to their customers. And why I said they are having a big problem, because inside every year they captured less and less fish. And of course that's happening all over the world. And first is we are eating too much fish, and also the second is in the past people eat they don't care which is a young fish or older fish, they just capture them all and eat them all. So of course if the population is growing, there will always be not enough fish in the ocean. So because of their family business facing this issue, so he decided to come back to his hometown. And his hometown located in Hualien, and nearby there's a very famous place called Qixingtan, which is a very popular pebble beach. From the beach you can easily see the beautiful cliff of the east coast. But usually most people, when they visit this area, they just go to the pebble beach, take a photo, maybe stay 30 minutes or play a little bit in the water, and then get back to the car and heading north to the famous Taroko National Park, or heading south to the Hualien city. But every year there are about 4 million people visit this area. So when they return to the Qixingtan, they start to think, what should we do and what can we do to keep people stay in this area longer and to know more about fishery and to save our family business. So they come out with this idea. So although we are very close to the ocean, but they don't just open the restaurants and serve fresh seafood to people. They actually offer you experience of touching the fish, learning about the fish. Because in the past, when people go to the market when they want to buy seafood, they always ask the owner which seafood is fresh, which seafood is good for pan fried, and without any hesitation, they just take whatever fish the owner offered. But over there, they teach you how to choose the fish and why to choose this fish, and what are the fish that we should eat and what are fish we shouldn't. And besides that, they also use the fish to make fish jelly, and they add it into a soft drink, into a soda, and it tastes amazingly, surprisingly delicious. And that's also a very creative way of using the fish from just the fish itself into a drink. And that also successfully attract lots of visitors there. So to learn more about the fishery industry. And besides learning, touching, and or watching the fish, they also offer you cooking experience, and they teach you how to what is the right way to cook the fish, so you can taste the fresh flavor of it, and just with a simple dressing can be very, very delicious. Instead of just sitting down and the waiter bring your food, you actually cook your own food. And through that procedure, people there can, all the visitors will know more about fishing. And besides that, they also cooperate with several local business. For example, cycling. So you can easily rent a bike and throw around the little village, and their family also open a coffee shop combined with some pancake. So successfully help to make the visitors stay longer and successfully bring the money into the village and help the community, help their neighbors to have more income, and also help their family business reborn. And I believe in your hometown or your home country must have something very unique, because we are all located on the Pacific Ocean. The wisdom or the skill that remained from our ancestors, we can use it and make it interesting again, and let more people join, and instead just stop and take a photo or taste the seafood. You can show them how to catch the fish and how to cook the fish, and I'm sure the visitors will be more satisfied. After we talk about the aviation, the economic, and the tourism and all this impact, have you thought about what will the post-pandemic world look like? Let's take a look of our last video.
What's going on, Chad Boobs? We're all losing our mind out here in quarantine. But have you taken a minute and thought about what the world would look like after this coronavirus outbreak is over? Well, the decisions our society and governments take in the next few weeks will most likely shape our world for years to come. The impact will not only be felt in public health, but across the board in terms of politics, the economy, and our cultures. For now, we have social distancing, flattening the curve, herd immunity, self-state imposed quarantine, working from home, no traveling, not a lot of toilet paper, and the online world has basically become our life. But how will all this affect us after COVID-19 is over? Yuval Harari argues that the bigger picture revolves around two big choices. The first is between totalitarian surveillance and citizen empowerment, and the second is between nationalist isolation and global solidarity. Governments have already introduced new surveillance tools to tackle the pandemic that would have been considered dystopian science fiction a few decades ago. China, for example, has employed mobile apps, close monitoring of smartphones, and hundreds of millions of facial recognition cameras, and measures such as forcing people to check and report their body temperature in order to identify coronavirus carriers, track their movements, and identify anyone they come in contact with. This Black Mirror-esque world is not just taking shape in China. Israel's security agency has now been allowed to deploy counter-terrorist cyber tracking technology to surveil coronavirus patients. It's important to mention here that the Israeli parliament actually refused this measure, which then had to be passed by PM Netanyahu as an emergency decree. Is this dangerous territory? Are we essentially choosing health over our privacy? And it's also a question of the type of privacy we're giving up. Harari warns of a dangerous transition from over-the-skin surveillance to under-the-skin surveillance. For example, he describes a hypothetical scenario where we're all forced to wear biometric bracelets that monitor body temperatures and heart rate 24 hours a day. Now, the theoretical upside is that with this kind of system, authorities would know that you are sick even before you do, and they would also know where you have been and who you have met or who you've interacted with. So chains of infection and disease transmission could be drastically shortened. But it's not all peachy, because the government would also know what happens to your body temperature, blood pressure, and heart rate every time you watch a video or do anything really. A system like this would basically give authorities access to information about what makes you cry, laugh, and what makes you angry. It would basically be like Cambridge Analytica on steroids. And even if such measures were only used during an emergency, history has shown repeatedly that emergency decrees can often be extended well beyond what was initially intended. Harari explains that we can avoid such a situation if we take a look at the examples of Taiwan, Singapore, and South Korea. He argues there is greater value in having a self-motivated and well-informed population that has reciprocal trust and transparency, rather than an ignorant and over-policed society. Globalization has in many ways been undermined by the coronavirus epidemic. Harari points out the importance of choosing global solidarity rather than nationalist isolation. Now, global solidarity can occur on three levels. The first is medical, and now I'm quoting Yuval Harari. He says, countries should be willing to share information openly and humbly seek advice, and should be able to trust the data and the insights they receive. We also need a global effort to produce and distribute medical equipment, most notably testing kits and respiratory machines. And it doesn't only depend on the wealth of the country, more its ability to help. For example, we've witnessed the value of Cuban doctors, a country which, although under sanctions, has been able to extend help as far as Italy. Global travel might also be derailed in the coming months. Suspending all international travel could be very detrimental. And I'm quoting Yuval Harari again, and he says, countries need to cooperate in order to allow at least a trickle of essential travelers to continue crossing borders. Scientists, doctors, journalists, politicians, business people, this can be done by reaching a global agreement on the pre-screening of travelers by their home country. But Hariri criticizes what he sees as the international community's paralysis. This could be due to the lack of global leadership present at the moment, particularly if we look at the US. The 2008 and even the recent Ebola crisis, the US was a global leader. But the Trump administration has all but abandoned its allies, not even notifying the EU when it cancelled all travel across the pond. And the president is too busy causing a fuss about what he thinks should be called the Chinese virus. And so the question is, where is our world headed? And can it ever look the same after this is all over?
In conclusion, COVID-19, of course, so far it's affect our life a lot, and I believe everyone's life was impacted by it, and also in every industry, and of course in the tourism industry. But tourism industry has been growing for the last 20 years, and now, although it's seems like it's dead now, but I believe it's a very good moment for us to think about what we can do, and if we can use it wisely, and I believe in the future it will still be the key to solve lots of problems. And COVID-19 is just temporarily stop people from traveling, but it can never stop the people's desire, and they're willing to explore the world and to communicate with different culture or different people. But it's also a sign to tell us that we need to find the balance between human and other creatures. Although this pandemic caused a lot of death and forced people to stay at home, but we also see a chance for the wildlife, the animals heading back to their habitat, and will start to look for their own food, and without human, they actually have a better life. So in the future, we should also focus on the sustainable tourism and to find the balance between each other. And if we can find a way to adapt the new consumer expectations, make people feel safe and relaxed, and in the future, when the doors open again, we will be very well positioned. And I believe this will be our chance. So let's treasure it and let's keep hope. And at the end, I would like to share with you a woman that I highly admired, whose name is Jane Goodall, who dedicated her early life in Africa, focused on the chimpanzee. She did a lot of research and learned a lot from them, and also find out that our mankind and chimpanzee has a lot of things in common. And he's also well known as keeping hope in her mind. Oh, and he used to tell people that only if we understand can we care. Only if we care will we help. Only if we help shall all be saved. So let's keep a hope in our mind and start to think what we can do and how to do it to make the world better. So this is my sharing today. Thank you for watching and see you next time.